This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Squarespace. Coming up, Colin Farrell plays a pretty mean vampire in the remake of Fright Night.
Today in movies, we are going to talk about Fright Night in 3D, a remake of the 80s classic that's actually on my list of shame.
I've never seen it either.
I've seen it like in parts on HBO, but
One of those.
One of those.
A lot of people love it.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm more of a Lost Boys guy. I think that's why I never picked it up. I had my allegiance to the boys that are lost. Anyway, Fright Night remake. It's about a teenager played by Anton Yelchin who suspects that his new next-door neighbor, played by Colin Farrell, might be a vampire.
Might be a feral Colin.
It's written by Marty Noxon, who is no stranger to the vampire. She's a Joss Whedon alum, having showrun or helped executive produce and write on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all the Joss Whedon shows. And Jeff.
Yes.
I'll go to Alex because you weren't trying to remember.
I'm cool.
Okay. All right. So Jeff, Fright Night in 3D.
Yeah, having had
movie shot in 3D, it's 3D.
Having had no prior experience with this property, I came in fresh. Didn't even really know it was a vampire movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I really didn't know anything about it.
Wow.
This is an interesting movie because it's really sort of three movies that are very tonally different. The first doesn't really work very well, I think. The first third of this movie is, unfortunately, kind of drops the ball on what makes movies scary. There's a classic horror trope is that pre-credits scare, right? And from the first moment, I was like, oh no, that's not good. This was not even remotely scary or even interesting or particularly clever. It was just a kind of rote monster. I mean, there's no suspense generated. There's a kid who's in a hallway, and then all of a sudden, or no, there's like an empty hallway, and then a kid slams into the side of the. There's no suspense, and that's kind of how the whole first part is. It's like they really should have generated some sort of mystery as to whether or not this guy's a vampire. But right away, he's a vampire. There's no big question mark there, and so the whole time where, we wonder, is this kid gonna figure it out? Is there gonna be, none of that is a question. Then it moves into this middle section, which is a really awesome action movie. It starts with this sort of sequence at the house where Colin Farrell just sort of decides that now's the time to stir some shit up, and it extends through this car sequence that is awesome. I was totally in it. Pretty much anytime Colin Farrell is on screen is riveting. What he brings to this role makes it fascinating and dangerous and bizarre. He's odd and in really interesting ways. And then the sort of last third is a Evil Dead, Army of Darkness kind of comedic, fun romp that is sort of middling in how well it works. There's some fun stuff that happens when we kind of figure out what the plan is, but there's a whole sequence in this Las Vegas location that is not interesting and not clever, and so the movie is a mix of weird things where I thought I did not like it a lot, then I really liked it, and then I was sort of like, I don't get this. I wish the whole plan had made more sense. I wish there had been more clever involved. Overall, I liked the experience. I didn't think the 3D particularly added to it. I liked the movie well enough. I just wish it had been more even and less disjointed and unsuccessful.
Well, teaser, I am the opposite on every thought you just pronounced. Teaser. Alex.
Every thought. Yeah. Interesting. Because I will say that I too thought Colin Farrell, one of the best things I've ever seen him in. I mean, I loved how he sort of took on this role and was really the things that I
agree with that, actually.
I was just
Teaser.
Spoiler, I lied.
Oh, you know what? I am
have to say? Did I say Conspiracy Theory?
I will say, I actually enjoyed the whole movie in soup to nuts. I was surprised at how much I actually enjoyed this movie, and I think it had a lot to do with not only Colin Farrell, but I think the writing was really fun and funny, and I thought it really nailed that, you know, Evil Dead, sometimes a little too jokey for me, you know what I mean? And sometimes, you know, Dawn of the Dead, close, but this is like, that's how I want my comedy and the things. And by the end, of course, Dave Tennant,
That's right,
one of
you
my
should
favorite
say.
Doctor Who's,
Doctor what?
plays sort of the like hokey, you know, Chris Angel type character who ends up being very important in the end. I mean, he's awesome. And I actually found that there to be a lot of really clever, unique vampire things that surprised me because I'd sort of thought, well, the vampire well is kind of dry, but there's like some moments of like what the plan is at the end that he has in his brain is kind of genius in my opinion. I mean, I was sort of like, that's the plan, and then when it was implemented, I was like, that is the best plan ever. You know what I mean? Because it's one of those things where you think the ways to kill vampires, the ways to thwart them have sort of been done.
Yeah.
That has never been done, and I was in.
Yeah.
And there were some moments. I mean, Colin Farrell. There were some moments with the column of light, and he's like mad at it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
He was
the
great.
best thing ever. So I had a blast. I actually was surprised at how well, and I thought the fact that it was shot on 3D, though I don't know if there were ever really any necessary, you know, desire to have that 3D. The difference between some of the 3D movies we've seen that are converted to that, in my opinion, I'm like, okay, I get it. My only gripe, the funny thing is, that car sequence seemed so clearly created in a computer to me that that took me out a little bit. It was still a fun sequence, so it had me, but that was the one thing where I was like, oh boy, none of this really looks
For
good,
that car,
realistic.
it was the it's a one long take in a car, very similar to Children of Men, but in Children of Men, the
Wow, was it
camera
one
moved,
take?
The whole thing was one take.
See,
Yeah.
maybe that's I get, because for me it just felt fake. I didn't notice that it was one camera take.
But the rhythm of the camera move didn't jive with the frenetic action
Yeah.
that was happening. Children of Men, the camera always kind of moved that way.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so I say,
yeah.
I was surprised at how good I liked it.
Alex, spoiler teaser. I agree mostly with you.
Amazing.
I actually, okay, Fright Night, my favorite movie of the summer. One of my
Wow.
favorite movies.
Amazing.
Frickin' loved it. An Ivy drip
you
of love.
You love kids in school. You love that like bicycling over to my neighbor's house kind of.
None of that happened in this, though.
Sure it did.
His bike didn't work.
Skateboard.
Yeah.
But I think you love that childhood reminiscence.
But a lot of times I'm
nostalgia.
upset when a lot of times that doesn't hit at all, you know? But
So how much did
But
you
and I thought so clever. There's
Yeah.
one sequence in the beginning of the movie where two friends are having an argument they were having a friend argument
Yeah.
inside a suspense sequence that it all the friend argument made it more suspenseful. The suspense of it made the friend stuff and really unique character dynamics in that normally the horror movies focus on a certain set of characters,
Yeah.
and this movie chose to make them not those obvious choices. And I actually was a little bit upset. At first I was like, well, this kid's being very heroic right away. And I kind of like, well, where's the drama, where's the conflict, where's he gonna go? And then, and even in the script, they mentioned that this is sort of like Jaws, that the movie says that. And it clicked for me that this is like Jaws. We are seeing a family unit just being a good, almost like Friday Night Lights, like being a good family unit up against the odds and trying to stick together and it's not about them falling apart and hating each other and amidst it's really about them trying to stick together. And that was such a joy to watch. And the people that are in it together are the most unique pairing of peoples that we'd ever see in a movie like this. Very clever, really funny. I thought the 3D was exceptional. I loved there's a moment in the beginning where we're over the suburbs.
Oh, yeah.
And the houses look like they're pop-up book houses. pop-up book, yeah.
It's interesting. You guys and I went to a different screening.
Yeah.
I wonder how much the 3D
You didn't
looked.
have a great screen. Oh,
The 3D did not look good to me.
I love that there was a couple of times where things were coming at you.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the depth in the suspense sequence where, you know, a trope this reminded me of Disturbia, which was similar to Rear Window, and those moments where like you're in a house that you're not supposed to be in, that seeing the depth in the 3D of like, and then seeing a guy through the beams of him walking, I was like, wow, the 3D is really bringing a lot to the table here, and the effects are wonderful.
Yeah.
I just thought it took so long to get going when we know so much more, so much of the information that leads to the fun stuff.
That's to me that's the trouble. That's just like Rear Window and Disturbia. It's like we know, but the characters, and it's like there's a frustration between like, oh my god, he totally is.
Rear Window is a question mark. The whole beginning of the movie is a question mark.
It's not really a question mark. We're pretty certain that that's what happened, and no one believes him. No one's believing us. We know, and no one, and she's not believing him in Rear Window, and the friends in Disturbia, and in this movie also there are friends. But I actually feel like there wasn't. A lot of times I'm very frustrated when people are frustrated in movies, and they handle that right away with the Colin Farrell attack on the house thing. They kind of.
I think from that moment on, the movie got really fun. But I didn't even think we needed the whole Chris Angel character. I didn't think that added a lot to the movie.
Everyone had a really good arc too. Like every little character had their moment.
Yeah.
I liked it. I had fun with it. I just wish it had held together a little better for me.
Interesting.
Fright Night.
Yeah.
Do you see it in
Surprise.
3D?
Yeah, absolutely a 3D watch. And not for Jeff.
All right, everybody, be sure to stick around for all the lovely outtakes from this week's episodes. But first, we want to thank our sponsor. Squarespace.com is the fast, easy way to create a high-quality blog, portfolio, any kind of website, really. If you have any questions, you need any help setting it up, whatever.
Call Alex.
Squarespace provides every member with an amazing Alex Albrecht all the time, 24/7 support.
That's right. They installed that red phone in your house.
Yep. And man, I got somebody.
Hang on a second.
Hold on 1 second. Yeah. Now just press the button. Oh yeah, it's that easy. Start your website or blog by choosing from over 60 professionally designed templates, and then adding content from your computer, your iPad, your iPhone. Squarespace's mobile app allows you to easily add entries, manage comments, anywhere. It's amazing stuff. Many of the internet's highest traffic web pages are powered by Squarespace. Not to mention many of the web pages from the people.
Mention it.
I'm not going to mention
mention
this.
it. You should mention it.
All right. To mention, the many of the people from Revision 3, their hosts and personalities, have Squarespace pages. So check out squarespace.com, get a 2-week free trial and 10% off. When you sign up in August, just enter the coupon code TRS8.
Is great.
Yes, we will see you after the lovely weekend, including my birthday.
Hey,
birthday.
It's already happened.
See you after the lovely weekend, including my birthday.
Hey,
birthday.
It's already happened.
Yeah, it has happened. Oh, it has. Yeah. It was the last weekend.
Gimme.
Oh, Luther.
Oh, woo! Oh.
Hello?
Bam.
What?
Yeah.
Ah!